Hi, hello. How are you, everybody? Welcome to the Laura Pipkin Show. This is our first show in English. And, well, with you, Laura Pipkin, and this
Mark Ripken.
amazing man, my husband, Mark Pipkin. Now, today, what topic do we have for today, my love?
We decided we wanted to talk about opportunities, how they present themselves, and maybe how we can recognize them.
Yes, do you think that the opportunities arrive by themselves?
I think a lot of opportunities do present themselves by them, but we probably, and a lot of people, ourselves included, do not recognize them sometimes until it's too late.
Sometimes I was thinking that we, in a way, also, if we don't receive the opportunities that life is supposed that has to send us, I don't know. Maybe we will create some of them. What do you think?
Yes, you can also create your own opportunities. I think sometimes sometimes you got to do something a little crazy, things that a lot of people maybe wouldn't do or aren't comfortable doing to create an opportunity. But in the end, it's usually worth it.
Have you done crazy things, my love?
I've done some crazy things. I'm not crazy like skydiving crazy, but crazy like drive across a country I've never been to before. Crazy.
Which country did you drive?
Okay. Actually, what she's getting at is uh, about 7 years ago, I just got up and decided I was going to go move to Mexico. And I spent 2 years there. I got up, I packed up my car, and I took off from Atlanta, Georgia, 3 days in a car. And let's see, it was in April, so it was in spring. I was in a car with no air conditioning, 12-year-old car, no air conditioning, and I drove completely across the southeastern part of the United States through Texas and then across Mexico to get to Puerto Vallarta so that I could take a class to get a certification to teach English as a second language. And it was quite an adventure.
Did you know that that I was Mexican, my love? That I'm Mexican? I
My,
was born in Mexico.
my wife is Mexican and I had no idea.
Yeah. No,
I
another
think
thing
I
is that in this case, he was very lucky. Is lucky the right way to say it?
lucky. Yeah, I think.
Okay, he was very lucky because you know that for some years to now, the things haven't been very good in Mexico, talking about security. Is security the right word? Yes,
Security,
security.
yeah, security.
Okay. And he drove through Mexico. And I think that you arrived to Nuevo Laredo, right?
I crossed in Nuevo
No, no,
Laredo
no.
from
To-
Laredo, Texas into Nuevo Laredo,
And then to
Mexico.
Monterrey. This part of the highway from Nuevo Laredo to Monterrey has been kind of dangerous for the last 7 years, or no more. For the last 10 years, have has been very dangerous. So, my love, I think that you have a big angel taking care of you.
That's possible. The thing is, I was very naive. You know, I did enough research to make the trip. I didn't research where the dangerous parts were. I didn't research who was gonna, what I needed to look out for. I just put my head down and went through. And yeah, maybe I was lucky. Maybe I was lucky. Maybe I do have a guardian angel watching over me. But at the same time, maybe I could do it 10 more times and nothing would happen. I mean, I don't imagine everybody who drives down that highway is going to get in trouble of some sorts. But at the same time, you still got to have some caution.
And in this case, if you have a research before about the situation that was going on in Mexico by that time, do you think that you still had traveled to Mexico and had going to this experience?
I think I probably most likely would have, yes. I would have at the time. I don't think there was so much of a problem safety wise in Mexico at the time. This was 2018. I don't recall. You would probably know better than me, but I didn't experience anything on the way. I didn't see anything crazy. I mean, on the way back, the only hang up I had for the entire trip there and the trip back was on the way back. I got stopped at a stakeout where the cops were looking for people smuggling drugs and they searched my car and then the cop decided he was going to keep my flashlight. That's about it. I was a free flashlight anyway. I was just like, here, take it and let me go. And so it was a good flashlight, but hey, I didn't want any kind of trouble with the cops because who's going to help you there?
Well, that's good. I think that you did it right because I think that if you had gone against the cop, probably he had jailed you.
Most likely they would have all of a sudden found some drugs in my trunk or something.
Jail
So
and miracle.
I'm like, no, all right, take the flashlight. That's fine. Of course, I drove about 5 miles down the road and then immediately pulled over and checked to see if they, while I was talking to the one cop, if they weren't, you know, finding some other things they liked. And thankfully everything was there, so no problem.
And in this case, my love, you said that you went to Mexico. Which were the opportunities? Well, you obviously you created the opportunity to go there, no? Because it was a
Yes.
decision that you did. You make some research to subscribe yourself into this school, so to prepare yourself to become an English teacher. But which other opportunities this decision uh, brought to your life?
Well, well, first off, the opportunity to experience a completely different culture.
Do you
Yeah.
like Mexican culture?
I love Mexico. I don't think, does anybody go to Mexico and not fall in love with the culture?
No, everybody
I mean,
falls in love with Mexican
everybody
culture.
I know who spent time in Mexico loves Mexico, and I do too. I mean, I always say the weather is nice, the food is delicious, and the women are beautiful. So
Yeah.
what's not to like, right? And so the opportunity to experience a completely different country. Again, I went there not knowing a soul. I did not know anybody in that country. I drove completely across. I'd never, my only experience being in Mexico for my whole life was one evening in Tijuana when I was 18, right? So that was over 30 years previous to where I was,
And you just cross the
now.
border to drink some alcohol.
Yeah, basically. And I wasn't even a drinker, so I was just kind of helping other people get back across.
You were the
But
designated driver.
but right, yeah. But we walked across, so
Mm.
once and so that was my experience in Mexico. So I was like, well, I was interested. It's funny as you get older, you start enjoying different things. You find things that when you're 18, you're like, who cares? Now all of a sudden I find interesting. And I found it really interesting to go spend a month in Mexico getting a certification to teach English as a second language. And I was like, why not do it? I mean, why not? And it was a little scary. It was a scary, the decision itself. I remember a couple nights I had trouble sleeping because I wasn't sure. I was like, am I making, what kind of, what am I getting myself into? I know nothing about this country. I know nobody there, you know, but once I made the decision and decided I was going to go, I that I was the fear was gone, and it was just excitement after that. I couldn't wait for the trip. So
Do you think that this experience changed your life?
this experience changed my life completely in a number of ways, right? First off, just the experience of driving there and back, spending a month there is probably one of the greatest experiences of my life, for starters. Okay. In fact, when I first went there, the idea was I wanted to go, once I got my certification, I was going to go teach English in somewhere in South America, Colombia, uh, probably not Venezuela, but Colombia, Argentina, what's Peru? What's the other one? I'm forgetting. Chile, somewhere, Ecuador, somewhere Spanish speaking country down in South America, because I was interested in visiting South America. But after spending a month in Mexico, I loved it and decided, I just want to come back here to Mexico. So that was his first thing. I decided, I mean, it was again one of the greatest experiences in my life. Something that completely changed it. Now, and this is just the first part. I haven't got to the second part yet, but I'm gonna let you continue.
Because I have questions. Thank you, because you're being empathetic with me. No, another question that I want to ask you, Mark, my love, my sweetheart, that I love you with all my heart. No, I want to ask you, which other experiences did you have in Mexico? For example, I know that you went to study, that finally you got your certification and you had the opportunity to teach English. So why you don't tell us a little bit about your experience as a teacher and the kind of
Okay,
people you
right.
met, and also what you did before, what you did after
Okay.
working for this company.
Right. Okay. So once I got my certification, then I had to go through an immigration process to get a work visa. So that took about a month after, actually, was it a month or two? Might have been 2 months. It took about 2 months, I guess, to get everything done. So I went back to the US for a month and waited. Once I got the visa, which was actually quite simple. All I had to do was well, once I got the information and everything from the company I was going to work for, I just had to make an appointment at the Mexican consulate, which there was one in Atlanta. So it was a little difficult getting the appointment because you make that phone call and they get, the stupid numbers. Press one now, press two now. Just keep sending in circles. Finally, I went online. Of course, I had a Mac computer. For some reason, Mac computers don't always work with these government websites. So finally, I was having a lot of trouble getting an appointment. So finally, I just said, all right, I'm going to go to the library because I know they don't have Mac computers. They're going to have,
It's
PCs.
all
So
computers.
I go to the library and I managed to get the appointment made in like 5 minutes. And so once I got the appointment made, I went. I talked to somebody, gave them all the information they needed. They said, okay. I said, how long is it going to be for me to get my work visa? She said, oh, you can pick it up this afternoon. I was like, I can have it this afternoon. I was like, well, that's good. So, I mean, that was fast. It was that quick. It was awesome, you know. And then I decided when I went back to teach that I was not going to drive this time. So
Good thinking.
because I don't know, I just decided not to. So I got a flight on Aeromexico and flew to Mexico. Um, it was funny, it had changed a lot in 2 months. Now all of a sudden, the rainy season had just started when I left, and now it was full bloom rainy season. As soon as I get off, it's probably 10 o'clock at night, 10, 11 o'clock, and there's just mosquitoes everywhere. I'm just like, there weren't this many mosquitoes when I got here, when I left, right? Well, now that it's rainy season and it's much more humid, the mosquitoes are everywhere. So that was interesting. And then the next day I had to report to my job, and funny because I was staying in a B&B about just a few blocks away. And somehow I was thinking that it was one way. And so I started walking there, and then I get about 5 or 6 blocks and I realized, wait a minute, I'm going the wrong way. So I had to flip around and kind of walk really fast and run to make sure I was there on time because I wanted to make sure I was there on time, right? I didn't know about the Mexican time thing yet. I wanted to be on time. So anyway, I got there on time, and I was in a training class with some other people. There was a guy from Wales. There was some girl from, was it Thailand or no, no, not Thailand. The Philippines. Some girl from Australia, and it was funny because we're all speaking the same language, but yet we couldn't always understand one another.
Here,
So,
can I add
but
something, Milo?
yes,
Here it's important to mention that, well, the visa to get the work visa for Mexico is easy, but if you have a company that is supporting you, and another thing is that is making all this paperwork, because there is a lot of paperwork that the company with the one you're gonna work has to do before you go
right,
to the embassy in your country. So because if the company is not doing the things in the right way, even though you go to the embassy in your country, you're not gonna be able to get the work visa.
right, and that's true. To get the work visa, you actually have to have been hired for a job first, and then they're gonna give you whatever paperwork you need for the work visa. Once you got that, once you've been hired, and they get you that information that you need. I don't remember exactly how much it was or how much paperwork or what exactly it was. I just remember I went there with whatever I needed, and it was really quick and simple. Once I had what I needed and showed them, yes, I have a job, I'm going to be working here. And again, the visa was very quick. The work visa was very quick and easy to get. So
Okay, so you work with the people from Philippines, from Wales.
Yes, and I worked with a company called Corporate English
Association,
Association.
Corporate English Association.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
I know the name because I was human resources there,
Yes,
so I
yes.
was the one who had the
Actually,
name.
yes, yes. My wife is actually the woman who interviewed me for the job.
I didn't know that I was gonna fall in love with him,
I
but
didn't realize I nailed the interview so well, but but it was a very interesting experience. Actually for the interview, because for the interview, I was still in Puerto Vallarta. I decided to stay in Puerto Vallarta after the class ended until I got the interview. I didn't want to have to keep coming back and forth. So once I got the interview, I drove from Puerto Vallarta, and I didn't know a lot about Guadalajara, which is where I was going to be working in Guadalajara, Mexico. Great city. Highly recommend it.
beautiful city, the best
Beautiful
one
city
in all the world.
in the world. And
Okay,
no, I truly believe that.
okay, you fully believe that.
But
Yes.
I'm driving to Guadalajara, and they have these in Mexico, they have these big speed bumps, similar, bigger than the ones we have in the US. But the bad part is they don't always paint them yellow like they're painted here. So you might not see them at nighttime. And I was driving this 14-year-old Audi, which is, Audis are a little bit closer to the ground than your average Ford Escort. So I hit one of them because I didn't see it, and it poked a hole in my oil tank. And I had to call and reschedule my interview because I wasn't sure I was going to be able to make it. My car was, it's 1 o'clock in the morning the night before the interview, and my car is leaking oil all over the place. And I didn't even know what I was going to do because I didn't know if I could find anyone who spoke English, right? I'm in the middle of Guadalajara, Mexico, which is very far from the border. Thankfully, I did. That's one of the things I found about Guadalajara, Mexico. Pretty much anywhere I went, any store, any restaurant, any uh
In downtown, you go to
warehouse,
Tlaquepaque,
anywhere
Zapopan,
you
there are
go,
flip-flops.
any place you go, you
And
will find somebody who speaks enough English to help you. You may have to look a little, might have to go to a few people, but you don't generally have to look too hard to find somebody who can speak to you in English, right? So that was good. I went into this restaurant, and the host, and I was like, I'm trying to speak to her in Spanish, and she's just kind of laughing, and and thankfully she spoke English. She actually let me use her phone to call the tow truck. And so I had to call a tow truck, and I'm thinking, oh God, what is this going to cost me? Turns out only to tow it from where I was at to the closest dealership where they could fix it, it was only about $25. I was like, wow, that's really cheap. And this is without AAA. Obviously, I didn't have, what the equivalent of AAA is in Mexico or anything. So it was just that, and I was like, wow, that was great. And I managed to get the car fixed for a pretty good price too. So what was probably 1/3 of what it would have cost in the US, maybe more than that, who knows? And anyway, I had to reschedule the interview, and now I'm stuck there with no car. So I just have to check in any hotel I can find. I I was in Providencia, which is kind of the rich area. So I was kind of scared about that. I'm like, okay, I'm in the rich area of Guadalajara. How much are these hotels going to be? I was in I don't remember which hotel it was. Very nice hotel. It was less than $100 a night. I was like, wow. I stayed there like 3 nights till my interview. And then after that, I just had to, I had my interview with this lady, and I believe she said I had to get some documents translated to Spanish. So that took a day or two. And then once I did that, and I got them back to her, then I drove back to the US and basically waited for, the time to get the work visa. So
in this case, now that we're ready to talk about all the process, Milo, tell me about the people that you met there. For example, something that happened to Mark when he was there in Guadalajara working for Corporate English Association is that this is a company that teaches English to different corporations. It's just businesses. They don't teach English to general public, just businesses. But for example, Guadalajara is a city that is, I think, that the size of Atlanta, Georgia. But he had classes in one side of the city, then he had traveled to his next class to the other side of the city and then go back to the side of the city that he started. So he liked it. He liked it. However, I was kind of in disagreement because while I was human resources, something that I believe about human resources is that we are the balance between the company and the employees to avoid that the company takes advantage of the employees and the employees take advantage of the company. So we're kind of there in the middle um, taking care of this balance. So I disagree with him having all his classes around the same way that I disagree with the rest of the teachers, no? I always was suggesting to put them in a single space. But something that he commented, and I'm gonna ask him to say, is like the opportunity that he had to travel all around Guadalajara and all these beautiful things that he saw there. Obviously, Guadalajara, if you compare Guadalajara with a city in the United States, there are a lot of differences because we obviously are a different culture, but also is even though the Guadalajara is an structured city, there are a lot of things. For example, you see garbage in some places like everywhere. Well, you go, for example, to the surrounding areas of the city, you're gonna see garbage in some places. People runs more like disorganized kind of. I think that kind of how they used to do in California. That now with all these things that have improved the city, they are not happening. But what can you tell us about like your experience with the students, your experience traveling in Guadalajara with the people, how uh, the impact that this has had in your life, and also all the open mind. Well, if this helped you to open your mind, how it has worked since then.
Well, first off, traveling or getting to travel out from one end of the city to the next every day. You're right. I got to see the whole city. Kind of helped me learn how to get around, right? After a while, the route to take to get from the southeast corner to the northwest corner, from the southwest corner to the northeast corner. In fact, I think actually the northeast part is probably the part that I was the least familiar with. I don't think I had any classes up there, but I always had, I mean, not the fur. I had some up there, but it was still kind of in the city. And, but, it was, I did enjoy it. I liked the long bus trip, which was kind of odd, because here in the US, nobody wants to ride the bus. Granted, we don't have a very good bus system, right? But if we did, a lot of people probably don't want to ride it. They think, oh, it's terrible. You know what? I rode the bus every single day. They don't have air conditioning. You're packed in like a sardine, and I grew to really like it. As long as I got a seat, I was cool. And usually on Tuesdays, I went to teach English at a Ryder, which is, the moving company Ryder. They had a branch down there in Guadalajara. And I would leave my second class there was at like 2:30 to was it 2 or 2? I think it was 2 o'clock to 3:30. So at 3:30, and I had another class at 6 o'clock, but it was on the other side of Guadalajara. I mean, we're talking outside the city, pretty much you're almost to farmland. So I was like, all right, well, I went out there, I got on the bus. Usually by then when that bus came, the bus was pretty empty. So I was able to get a seat. I put my headphones on and just kind of watched out the window. By the time I got to where, close to where my next class was, it took till about 5 o'clock to get there, close to 5. And it dropped us off at this mall. And I said, well, I had like an hour and a half to my next class. So I'd usually go in, get a burger or something, and then I'd usually walk. I'd have enough time to walk to the last class, which is usually still another mile down the road. And I would do that. I felt it was good exercise. Right? So I would do that. But by the time we got to the part where they dropped us off at that mall area, the bus was again like a sardine can. There was tons of people. There was, every seat was taken. The whole aisle was full of people and they were squished together like this, So And again, I grew to really like it. It was kind of fun. Everybody's, it's just, to me, it was a lot of fun being a part of the community there rather than just being a visitor. You know what I mean? I found that very, what's the word? Enjoyable.
And in
But
this case, I have a question, my love. Did you
yes.
feel alive?
Yeah, I felt very alive.
Okay.
That's again, that's one of the ways in which going to Mexico changed my life was because you start realizing the simple things that I suppose we all kind of look over now and take for granted are the things that really make your life fun and enjoyable.
How did you feel before going to Mexico? Honestly, how did you feel
About what in particular?
about your life?
About my life? Well, I was, yeah, I was in a rut. It wasn't kind of a rut. I had been a graphic artist for 11, 12 years. And finally, I got laid off. I worked for AT&T, working on the phone directory. We used to do the ads in the phone directory. Well, that kind of went out of business. Obviously, nobody uses a phone directory anymore. I don't even think they have one online. But once that happened, I did some odd jobs for a few years trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I did a few uh, like labor jobs, some more some blue collar jobs, some white collar jobs, a little bit of everything. And I never found anything else I wanted to do. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And that's when I came across an ad about teaching English overseas. And it still, again, when I saw that, it started kind of planted a seed. It was still a few years before I did it because I had to kind of get some ducks in a row. And once I did, though, I was like, you know what? Now's the time.
Look, here is something important because I want to go back more to the part that we were talking about opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know that there are a lot of things to say here, and maybe we're gonna do it in another episode. But for example, here now, he was working here in the United States, he has his job. So when he was laid off, he went to find other jobs. So he didn't stop like, oh no, I need to continue working for graphic design. So he went to look for other opportunities. And this is the message that we want to transmit. This is the main goal of this conversation here, of this talk, that sometimes you have something, you prepare yourself to perform in a specific area, but for some reason the things don't work in the way that you were expecting that they were gonna work, or they don't work for a longer time that the one you expected. However, when the things don't work in that way, there are still opportunities that you have, that you can create, that you can find among all the things, all the activities that you can perform in your life. So is what Mark did. And when he didn't feel, I'm going to say, when he felt that he needed to go further, he went to Mexico to live the experience in teaching English as a second language. And he also enjoyed being inside the packed bus with all the, no, and really this is a challenge. It's not all the people, because for example, in the time working in corporate English, I think that we had like more than 100 foreigners that went to work in Mexico. And some of them just didn't make it. Some of them, they got sick because of the food. They said they have the conditions. I knew that. And some others, they just didn't want to be there because they felt that they didn't have the commodities. How do you say commodities? They didn't have the comfort, comfortability that you have here in the United States. Because Mexico, for example, in Mexico, you barely find a dishwasher in the houses. We don't have them. We wash the dishes with our hands. We don't have dryers in our houses. We hang out the clothes out of the once that we wash it in the washer machine, we hang out the clothes outside under the sun.
Clothesline.
Exactly. So, for example, here you go to Atlanta, and in Atlanta, everybody's driving their cars. So you can see one bus here, one bus there, but they're just a few buses. Guadalajara, Mexico City, all the cities in Mexico, they have a complete infrastructure for public transportation that a lot of people, you see a lot of cars too, but not all people are using their cars. And this is a new experience that, well, in my opinion, a lot of people should give themselves the opportunity to live as as Mark did, because it's something that I think that is really changed your mind.
No, no, absolutely. Yeah, you don't have all the luxuries. You know, if you're an adventurous person, you're gonna really enjoy going and living in a place like Mexico, or you know, even if maybe there's somewhere in Asia you want to go, or somewhere in, I don't know, the Middle East, whatever. But if you're an adventurous person, you really like it. You know, there are people like Patty says, Laura says, that maybe it's not for them. Maybe they're thinking that they can still have that all the same luxuries of home, and yeah, not necessarily. But you also find that you don't really need them, you know. Like we only had one, I think the whole time we were in Mexico. Well, not the whole time she was in Mexico, but the whole time I was there, there was only a short period of time where we even had a water heater, you know, so we're taking showers in whatever temperature the water happens to be at that moment. Now you can work your way around that, because if you the way they collect the water, they collect it in a big tank, right? And if I believe that's right, correct?
Yeah.
And if you take your shower at 5, 6 in the evening, you know, the sun's been beaming on it all day, so it's pretty warm. You know, it's still not hot, but it's warm enough. And I don't know, I kind of grew to like that too. I remember getting up in the morning and taking a shower, and
In winter.
I remember that, you know, when you turn on cold, know you're going to jump into cold water, you kind of got to sit there and brace yourself, and then you turn it on, you sit there and you go. Well, I knew that the first water coming out in the morning was going to be the warmest it was. So as soon as it turned on, I jumped right in, because I was like, I knew that after that it was just going to get colder. And but it was kind of funny. And I remember thinking about, you know, boy, my nieces and nephews would hate this.
No,
But
no,
I enjoyed it.
this is very important what he's saying, because also talking about opportunities is like, my love, how your perception about people are very picky has changed since you went to Mexico.
About being picky.
About people that are very picky.
Oh,
Like people that, oh, you know, it's because where is the dishwasher?
oh.
How your perception about them has changed?
Mm.
Well, if your perception has changed, my love,
I
just
really, honestly, I never really thought about that. I just wish more people would try these different, try going to a place you know that you maybe never thought of going, or maybe never thought you could be happy in. Check it out. You know, you just might, you know. As far as, you know, my perception of people that are picky, well, it is kind of, I don't know, I guess I was probably one of them to an extent, and probably still am. Um, but it was just refreshing to realize that, you know, a lot of the things that we rely on, we don't really need them so much. They're just luxuries, and there's a lot of things that we could do without. Not saying that you should just ditch them all. Just saying, you know, maybe once in a while it's good to get away from them, just to remind yourself that
you
know,
have the privilege.
you have a privilege and you're strong enough to do without these things. You know?
No, and another thing is that this is a way to give the more value to what you have, because sometimes, especially when you are very young, you had all these you had the life already solved because of your parents, no? Especially here in the United States. But when you go out to a place that you don't have all the things that you usually have here, I think that you learn how to give more value to certain things, and to stop giving the value to just material things. You start giving value to people, because at the end, wherever you are, even if you don't have all these comfy things, you are you. At the end, you are a person, and you have You can perform with or without the things. Also, do you know that we have Manuel J. Gutiérrez? He was a politician in Mexico. He said, it's like the world is going to change with you, without you, or despite you. So we're able to work to perform with the things, without the things, or despite the things. And I'm talking about the TV, I'm talking about the warm water, I'm talking about the dishwasher, I'm talking about the dryer, the air conditioning. Because another thing that in Mexico we
did not
we
have
don't
air
have air
conditioning.
conditioning in the houses. It's in the offices, in some offices, but not in the houses.
Yeah, but we got on just fine without it, you know.
But the good thing is that you can open the window on the patio, you can open the window in the living room, and the air is gonna go
That's
on.
right, and the air kind of comes through.
When the air doesn't come through, you just turn on the fan and use the air of the fan, but you don't have air condition. So at the end, talking opportunities is something that you can find if you open your mind to find them. But if you just sit down because something is not working, if you just sit down and wait for them, they may not occur. If they don't come in the way that you were expecting that they should come, you have to create them. You have to go for them because this is just an experience about traveling to Mexico, no? But for example, there are people that they have traveled to other countries. There are people that they have started learning other stuff, no, macrame, something, started learning about music. And at the end, I think the opportunity is about finding you talents that you didn't know that you have. Because, for example, did you see yourself, my love, before teaching English classes or teaching in front of a group of people?
Honestly, that was one of the challenges that I was looking for going to get this certification. I've never been a real, what do you call it, extroverted person, but I was like, you know what? I want to see, maybe I could be a good teacher. Was I a good teacher? I don't know. You'd have to ask my students, but I really enjoyed it. I think I was better than I thought I might have been. I think I did it. At the very least, I was effective. And I think I surprised myself, by how much I could put aside any introverted part of my personality to actually go and teach English to a bunch of strangers who I'd never met, probably had no interest in knowing me at all before entering
And
my class. So
now that you're talking about this, why you don't tell them what happened when you started working at Coca-Cola?
oh, actually, yeah, that's a good point. I used to have after I got laid off of my job from AT&T. Once I moved down to Georgia, and again, I did some odd jobs. I ended up, for a while, I was a security guard at the Coca-Cola headquarters. And at that point, again, I was a very introverted person. I was the type of person, if I walked by somebody, I didn't even look at them, didn't say anything. Now, all of a sudden, part of my job is to just greet people when they come in. The employees, when they come in, visitors, greet them when they come in. So I just took it and ran with it. All right, well, that's my job. I'm going to do it. So I just started, greeting people, even when they left. Hey, have a good day, And in time, I found myself, even when I'm on my day off, I'm walking around, I don't know, the grocery store, and when I pass people, hey, how are you? Now it's a habit. It wasn't just my job anymore. Now it was a habit. All of a sudden, I was like, wow, all of a sudden I'm turning into this extroverted person just from my, having a job and being required to do it. And so that kind of helped too. That made me realize, well, if I could do that, maybe I can teach too, And obviously, I know English. I speak it. I can't say I'm, the perfect English speaker or the perfect at know everything about it, but I knew enough to teach it, especially to people who wanted to learn. So,
Uh,
go ahead.
And I want to ask you, what do you do on Sundays in the church? What did you started doing this last
Oh.
Sunday?
Oh yeah, now at church, I'm a greeter at church too. So, of course, they're all English speakers. There might be some Spanish speakers, but
Because you know something, we know that, no? That opportunities also is to face your challenges and start doing things that you usually don't do. For example, he said something that is very important, no? It's like I was an introverted person, I didn't say anything to people, I was kind of scared. But once that you are forced to do something, it's okay. They're paying me for doing this, so I'm gonna do it. He started doing it, and he found that this was a talent that he had or that he has. So sometimes this means to take advantage of the opportunity. It means that you have to go ahead of the things that you usually do. So if you don't want to do it, probably the opportunity just is gonna fly.
and the thing is, not everybody. When I was working at Coke headquarters, not everybody would. Most people would, say, "Oh, say hi to you back or say bye to you back." They would accept the greeting and give you one back. Of course, you're going to run into people who are like, and they just kind of, I don't want to talk. But because it was my job, I was just like, well, I got to keep doing it anyway. And I didn't take it personal. It was done on a non-personal level, right? I was just doing it because it was my job, and it just in time it became, like I said, it just became
Habit.
a habit. It became a habit, and taking it personal if somebody didn't return it or was like, leave me alone. Now I just blow it off because it means nothing. But that was something I would not have done probably 5 years previous to that. So in fact, I might have been the one telling, leave me alone.
No.
But again, you learn that some of these things that we do and don't do, we say, oh, well, that's not me. Well, maybe it is you. You just haven't, maybe it's not a matter of if it's part of your personality or not, but it's just a habit you have not developed. And I developed that habit, and I'm still not complete. I've always been kind of again, an introverted person, not when it comes to strangers, but I realize that, hey, I can do these things. I can greet somebody, I can talk to somebody, and it's not that big a deal. Now I still have a job where talk and greet to people. So
Imagine how good it was, and how good it has been since he became a little more extroverted, that he got married with a Mexican.
yeah.
But this we're gonna talk in the next episode,
Mhm.
when in a different day. For today, I think that was everything, right, Milo?
I got one final thing I want to say.
Yes, say it.
We were talking about opportunities, right? And I just want to tell this quick little story. We took our daughter to Legoland about 6 months ago, and this is just to give you an idea of how opportunities present themselves. Um, I wanted to make sure we got there when they opened. I wanted to stay the whole day. I want to make sure Natalie got to see everything and got to have as much fun as possible. We get there, there's a line. I'm trying to I'm sitting there standing in line I'm like, well, maybe I could try to get the tickets online. So I go on my phone, and for some reason it's not accepting what I'm doing. And I'm starting to get angry. I'm like, what the heck? Now it's more expensive online, right? Than it is to get them at the
No, it's more expensive to buy them than in this online. In online, you were gonna save like $30
Oh, was I?
or something.
Okay. All right. Sorry, she needed to help me on that one. Okay, yeah, it was more expensive in line, so I wanted to get the cheaper ones. I'm sorry, it was more expensive in the line, waiting in line to go to the window than it was to go online. So I'm trying to save $20 a ticket or more by getting them online, and it keeps declining it. And I'm like, what the heck? And finally, I just give up. It's because my credit card company just kept denying it, saying, "Oh, there's this, is this you doing this?" And I said, "Yeah, it's me." I went to they had sent me an email saying, "Yeah, we noticed this large purchase for tickets. We want to make sure it's you." Because obviously I don't live in Florida, I live in Georgia, so they're thinking somebody's using my credit card for some scam, something that I don't approve of. So I sent the thing back, yes, that's me, I'm trying to do it. So they said, oh, we should be able to do it again. Do it now. I tried it again, still not working. So I'm getting angry because it's gonna cost us
Nice big
$75 more, you know. And then finally there was this group, this school group with some chaperones. You know, they were coming to visit Legoland, and this one woman walks up and she says, hey, we have an extra voucher. Would you like to use it for your daughter? And I was like, really? She's like, yeah. I'm like, how much? She's like, oh, you can have it. I was like, well, thank you. So, and it's funny because I'm sitting here thinking that having this horrible luck. I'm having this horrible luck that I'm going to end up paying $75 more for these tickets. And as it turns out, it ended up being good luck because if I had bought the tickets online, I wouldn't have been able to use the free voucher and saved even more money. So, and I just remember, you know, Laura and I talking about, it's like, you know, it's amazing how good fortune can often be disguised as bad luck. And the truth is that because I had the bad luck trying to order them online, that saved me, or it kind of delayed me getting the tickets online so that I could get the voucher. And in the end, now, yeah, I still had to pay $20 more at the window for our tickets, but we ended up saving,
The 120.
we still saved an extra like $50 because we didn't have to buy an Adelaide ticket. So I was like, in the end, my bad luck was good fortune. So it's just, you know, again, it's kind of crazy how sometimes that can be that way. You know, good fortune can often be disguised as bad luck. And also, opportunities don't always present themselves, you know, gift wrapped with a pretty little bow on top, you know.
Mhm.
So sometimes, you know, going to work in some sewer could lead to the greatest, you know, professional gift of your life. That's all I got to say. So
Thank you so much, Melo.
you're welcome.
We'll have a next episode later.
Okay, we do.
Thank you so much for being here. Laura Pipkin, Mark Pipkin with you today, and see you next time.
Hasta luego.
Have a nice weekend.